Welcome to the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast, where we explore therapy, Kundalini yoga, and all things holistic wellness. I'm Hannah Zachney, LMFT, International Retreat Leader, and Curious Human. Whether you're tuning into us via social media or any of the major podcast platforms, we're so grateful to have you here. Here's to opening our hearts and exploring life together. Welcome to the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast. Today, we are going to have so much fun and we are going to learn so much. This is for everyone and especially for the ladies. We have Danielle Farias with us today, and she is the director at Qlarity Breast Imaging in Dorado Hills. And we were introduced via Dr. Christine Burke, who's doing some really remarkable work right now. And we're very thankful for all of these powerhouse women who are just doing so much to just help the future generations and bring insight and education to how we can proactively, preventatively take care of ourselves in a better way. So thank you so much for being here. And I would love to just read Danielle's professional bio so that you have a little bit of idea more about who she is. So she, in addition to being the director at the Qlarity Breast Imaging in Dorado Hills, California, Danielle is at the forefront of a true breakthrough in women's breast health, leading the charge with the revolutionary QT scan, a screening tool without the use of radiation or compression. That sounds fabulous. Danielle is helping to usher in a safe, more empowering future for women everywhere. So thank you so much, Danielle, for being here today. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm so excited to have this conversation.
I know. I'm very thrilled to be here and get to tell more women about the QT scan and more education on the whole matter. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And so QT scan, let's just start off with what does that mean? What is that? And then, and also, how did you find yourself here doing this work?
Yeah, so QT stands for quantitative transmission. So that's the QT and the whole fun wording of it all.
Okay.
And so it's a no radiation, no compression imaging tool that is FDA cleared to be an adjunct screening tool to mammography. I will say it's amazing for women with dense breasts, women who have implants, because again, there's no compression. If you want a second opinion on an area that you're looking at, one of the main reasons QT was even invented was to reduce the amount of unnecessary biopsies, which is huge. I mean, if we can better identify more benign findings, then we can help women not have to go through that and have better peace of mind.
Yes. Yes. And how did you find this
So,
field?
Of course, like
Yeah.
you mentioned, Dr. Christine Burke
Yes.
introduced us together, and I've been working with Dr. Burke for about 5-6 years. And she was approached by the inventor of the QT scan, and because she was sending her patients down there for like the past 4 or 5 years.
To the Bay Area?
To the Bay Area,
Okay.
yeah. So in Nevada, and QT Imaging is the inventor site.
Mhm.
And he approached her and said, "Hey, do you want your own scan for your site?" And she's like, "Hell yeah.
Yes, I do.
Let me bring it to the women in Sacramento."
Yeah.
And then she was actually going to split it between 2 other people's jobs who they already had a full-time job. And
Mhm.
I was doing more of the administrative back-end stuff for her. And I kind of raised my hand and I said, "Actually, I'd love to lead the charge." And she said, "It's yours. Go."
Wow.
So I went down to Nevada, got trained, and now I'm the director of the site. And we didn't even talk about this before, but I'm actually also in charge of helping more QT sites be successful since we opened a little over a year ago, and we have a lot of experience now. And we want other sites to be successful to help more women.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure many people want to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So what about this made you raise your hand and say, yes, I'm in? What was so intriguing and exciting for you?
Oh, that is a great question. I would say I wanted my own project, and I'm very philanthropic. I love helping people, and it just seemed like a great opportunity to kind of marry a bunch of things that are in my heart that I love to just put out there. And so yeah, I think it was a great opportunity to take ownership and kind of run wild with it.
And what were you doing exactly before that? Like, how has your background lead you to this
Yeah,
place?
it was more marketing
Okay.
is my background, and I'd been marketing for her clinic for a long time. And then, of course, just working in the medical industry and functional medicine, you just learn so much. I mean, just being there, you absorb everything functional medicine, and then you start to wonder about your own health stuff. And then, of course, I got my health issues under control there. So, yeah.
And once you see things really happen personally too, it's a whole nother level of investment that you can
Yes.
make because you just really want to share that with whoever you can.
Yeah, and I think also it empowers you to take your own health into your own hands as well,
Hmm.
and you realize that you have the power to make the changes and heal yourself. It's just functional medicine, and I think everything in the healing community is there to help guide you and
Hmm.
help you find the pathways to help what fits good for your healing journey.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad you're in this path.
me
Excited
too.
to circle back in a even 6 months and see what you're doing.
Right?
Beautiful. So I know most women don't say they're really excited to go get their mammogram or whatever they're doing or to and breast health is it's scary because I know sometimes I hear a lot of stories where things go even often undetected and they're found by a self test, right? And sometimes or there's just kind of a lot of unknowns. It just kind of feels a little precarious sometimes to be female and to know how to gauge this, and it's such a big risk to not know.
Yes. No, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, there's so many women out there that there's about 60% of women over the age of 40 who just don't get their annual
Yeah.
mammograms, and about almost 23% have never had a mammogram. So, I mean, let's
Mhm.
talk about that, right? Like
Yeah.
if early screening is so important, which I do believe it is, but women aren't getting it, then we're not listening to women because in my belief, complaints are communication.
Yes.
So if
Or resistance
or
is even
resistance.
yeah,
Yeah,
is even
there women
communication.
are telling you, and we need to
Mhm.
listen in all aspects. In
Mhm.
this case, the medical industry. If women aren't getting early screened, then there's an issue there because the whole purpose of early
Mhm.
screening is to help save more women. So if they're not doing it
Mhm.
because of pain, because of beliefs, because of whatever it may be, then
Mhm.
we're doing a disservice to them by not expanding and just kind of growing in the industry.
Yeah, I have to admit I've put it off here and there.
Right? And you're not the only one.
Yeah.
So many of my patients, and I mean, I've had like 60-year-olds who have
Mhm.
never had a mammogram.
Mhm.
And I've had women who, I mean, I could really go into stories. We won't go too big, but I mean, I've
A
had
couple are
women,
fine because I
I
think it
know.
normalizes the process.
So I had a woman at the very beginning of when we opened up. She drove down from Oregon and she was in her 60s, had never had a mammogram, very holistic,
Mhm.
and just really didn't feel comfortable with having a mammogram. She had advanced breast cancer, and she just refused to get screened because she didn't want to go through the pain, and then now it had probably gotten metastatic. But after she got the QT scan, and we were only able to do one side because she was in so much pain,
Mhm.
we were able to actually show her she had 3 lesions. It had progressed to the auxiliary area, and it progressed her to like, go to the doctor and actually take actionable steps.
Yeah.
And there's just
Yeah.
like, what would have happened? That she only came to the QT scan because of what we offered.
And so explain to us what is the difference between a traditional mammogram and a QT scan? What's the process?
Yeah. So right now, the FDA clearance is QT scan is an adjunct tool to mammography.
Okay.
So just kind of like handheld ultrasound, regular ultrasound, and then MRI as well. Like those are adjunct tools to
Okay.
mammography. And then we have women who they're getting thermograms regularly instead of a mammogram, and then the thermography will refer them to us. So as far as I guess if we got more into the nitty gritty of like the imaging quality, so mammography is pretty inferior for dense breasts. That's just conventionally known. That's why you usually have handheld ultrasound recommended after a mammogram for women with dense breasts.
Okay, so this is why whenever I go get one, because I have dense breasts.
Mhm.
So if I go, they're like, 9 times out of 10, they want me to do it again.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
exactly.
what's the point of doing this? Like, why
Yes.
am I, it's kind of defeating.
Yeah, and I mean, it's even in the Journal of the National Cancer
Uh-huh.
Institute that mammography is not enough for women with dense breasts to do
Uh-huh.
screening.
Okay.
So this is an adjunct tool that's FDA cleared for that. So women
Okay.
who have dense breasts can get a better answer. What's going on? It was even just recently from the Are You Dense Foundation.
Hmm.
They had an FDA national law. I'm
Hmm.
sure you heard about it, where now mammography can put in there, or they're forced to put in there what level of breast density you have, because if you don't know, so how do you even know to like proceed with an additional imaging adjunct tool like QT scan if you don't even know what breast density that you have? So now it's required, and it's always been required in QT scan. It's always been a part of it,
Hmm.
and it actually will tell you the percentage of your fibroglandular tissue as well. So it's so much more detail about women and their breast health, especially women with dense breast, and then women with implants as well.
Mm-hmm.
So no compression, so we can see
Mm-hmm.
better around the implants. There's
Mm-hmm.
no risk of dislodging, of rupturing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of there's a lot of risks, and some of it is a greater risk than the other, but women have a fear
Well, I would
regardless.
imagine that would exacerbate the resistance to going to get
Yeah,
one. If yeah.
exactly. It goes
Mm-hmm.
back to that
Mm-hmm.
statistic, right? Of the amount of
Yeah.
women who aren't going.
Yeah. The baseline is seems so logical. It seems
Mhm.
like so silly that we aren't doing that already, and I'm so glad we are
Right.
starting to do that with this because like concussion protocol, now I have well, they're getting older, but in like playing sports, teenagers, they do that baseline concussion protocol so that they know when they get hit, they can not look back at like a generic, um, I think it is like an imaging that they do, but I don't know the details of it. But if they have done a baseline on their brain, then they can see, is this normal to their brain or is this really an injury to their brain, right? Because
Mhm.
there are some kids that have, and I could be completely botching this, but this is my understanding of it, is there could be kids who had minor concussions when they were younger that were not found. And
Mhm.
so they're starting at a different baseline. So you need, this just makes sense that if you don't know where you start, you go in circles, right?
Exactly. Exactly. No, it's a perfect point.
Yeah.
And even women going through breast cancer,
Yeah.
then it's like you want to know where the margin lines are on an imaging aspect as well. And then you can tell I have women who go through more holistic treatments and they're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with breast cancer and then they're using the QT scan to just track it to see if
Mm-hmm.
it's growing, if it's responding to treatment or if it's stable. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of those women.
So I hear from people a lot like, what does that, so when you say thermoscan, is that like a machine that you stand in? Is that a machine that goes over your body? Are you doing ultrasounds? Like physically, what happens when
Oh,
you like go in, like
yeah, yeah.
versus the clamp,
Yeah.
right?
What are we doing?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Okay, so you're actually laying on your stomach,
Okay.
and then there's a little hole that's in the center at the upper part, and then that's where we do one breast in at a time, and then we drop it down into water.
Oh.
And so it uses volumetric 3D rendering, and so it's very different, and it uses basically sound wave technology that goes through the breast tissue and then creates that whole 3D rendering of the breast. So it's a true 3D rendering, which is amazing, and it does it every 2 millimeters. So starting at the chest wall, going down to the nipple, just sound waves are going through your breast tissue. It's being received on the opposite side, which is very different than handheld ultrasound, where the sound waves are being bounced back from the tissue.
Mind blown.
Hmm.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and so then our radiologist can actually review through those layers, which is what makes it so amazing for dense
And
breast.
thorough.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and not just like nipple to chest wall, side to side, up and down. You can scroll through the whole breast.
And that does not sound painful at all.
No, it's not. Women fall asleep.
Yeah, it might even be relaxing. You
Yeah.
can throw a little like massage on that.
I know. I've had requests for shiatsu. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not
Yes.
qualified.
Well, I bet that's coming. You go to
Right?
you go to the dentist and you get to watch a movie. Like pretty soon there's going to be like some sort of
Exactly.
like add-on feature that you can do when you get your imaging done.
Right.
Oh, that's great. Do you know any other like is just random question? Is there any other like specialty using this type of screening on any other body parts that you're aware of?
Oh,
Or
yeah. I know that it was in the works, full body and for babies.
okay.
Yeah, which I
Oh,
mean, I
babies.
know babies
Yeah.
should not be x-rayed.
No, babies
Mm-mm.
need this too. I mean, we
Mhm.
all do.
We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a full body, I know. I don't know too much because I haven't read any publications
Yeah.
if there are any yet.
Yeah.
But I know they were using pig carcasses and they were able to see in detail many of the organs. Like it was pretty incredible. So hopefully that'll be something progressed, but I don't have anything currently to say on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. To be determined. I'm sure there's so much
Right?
moving so fast right now,
Right,
which is so
exactly.
exciting. But an exciting time for you to be in this field, and especially to be helping branch it out and grow it. Like
Hmm.
this is so good.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited to just make it more accessible to more women. I mean, I get
Mhm.
calls from out of state all the time,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Is one coming to Oregon? Is one coming to Idaho? How
Mhm.
about me?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"We're working on it, you guys." Like,
Mhm.
it really just took off this past year. Like, it became a thing about 10 years ago, and then in 2018, it got its first FDA clearance. So, I mean, in the medical world, this is
Mhm.
still kind of in the new phase,
Mhm.
but this last year, it's just boomed, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, I love that you have a marketing background too.
Yeah,
Because
maybe that's
this is,
why.
yeah, I think, well, divine intervention, right? Like,
Right.
and you're just lined up because this is something that 10 years, I mean, I think I've heard like a little bit about a thermogram and a little bit about different options to do, but you get busy and you never just whatever.
Yeah.
And then you don't take the time to learn about it. So I'm so glad there's a more of a proactive effort to really get this
Yes.
information to women. And also, do men do this at all? Like, is there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
because men can get
Right.
breast cancer. I even had a gentleman call me because he was actually going to get a breast reduction because he lost a lot of weight.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, that kind of goes to another thing. So he had an HMO coverage, and they, even though he could do a mammogram, they don't share their mammograms, I guess, with outside, so he couldn't get cleared to do the breast surgery. So
Okay.
he was going to come to us to do it, and I think he's still figuring out financials. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's just I think accessibility is huge in all of this as well. I mean,
Right.
this currently isn't covered by insurance, but I hope that is changed in the future. But I do have concerns about what that means in accessibility later because right now we don't require a referral. Like,
Okay.
so anyone can come at any time as much as they want because it is 100% safe. Women as young as 18 can even get this done,
Mm.
which is another huge point. I'm going on so many tangents.
It's
I'm
okay.
so
Let's do
excited.
it all. Do it all.
So
I'm
yeah,
excited with you.
I know. So, I mean, there's women who, right, they have a big family history of breast cancer
Mhm.
and they need to get screened a lot younger, but
Mhm.
sometimes they're not even eligible to do a mammogram. Or if they have a lump and they don't have a family history.
Why are they not eligible? What's the
It,
reasoning behind that?
I think it could be like age is a factor in that. So it's like, okay, you're not in the screening age, you just have a lump, maybe it's just hormonally
Okay.
based.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I
It's
think,
developmental something. We
yeah,
can't rule that out. So yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
But I mean, the younger breast cancer
Mhm.
is the most advanced and the most aggressive.
Uh-huh.
So it's great for women. Like I had a 21-year-old, her mom had breast cancer, she had DCIS, and then she came in and she had a lump, and luckily it did end up being benign. She was put on birth control recently, so that
Mhm.
was a factor in, and we were able to help identify that it was a benign finding. But it's just one of
Mhm.
those like peace of mind, right? We want to help
Mhm.
women be able to access those answers.
Mhm. So right now, it would be something that you would have to kind of find out, discover that it exists on your own, and then proactively go set up your own appointments, and it would be private pay at this point.
Yeah, and I do get
Mhm.
referrals from
Mhm.
doctors. I even have a Kaiser doctor that refers to me.
Oh, that's
So,
great. That's
yeah.
great.
So it's growing. I mean, the more
Mhm.
that people are aware of it and want to learn about it, that's huge
Mhm.
too. Like
Mhm.
from all aspects of the industry, if they want to actually
Mhm.
learn about the technology and where its place is, then
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it'll grow even bigger. And I do get
Mhm.
referrals from outside sources.
In your just exposure to this world, are you aware? I mean, lifestyle is really important.
Hmm.
Treating our body like a temple is the most responsible thing we can do for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Aside from the imaging and being proactive in that way, are there any other just kind of health tip advice that we found that women can do to just kind of protect themselves or?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, diet and lifestyle is huge.
Hmm.
I mean, I've learned so much about lymphatic drainage from my
Hmm.
thermogram women out there that own their
Hmm.
own clinics, and they've taught me about the lymphatic drainage and how that is it goes straight down from your armpit area down,
Hmm.
and so that can be a factor in there as well. And exercise is huge. Hormone balancing is huge because you have, the hormone positive
Hmm.
cancers, which I
Hmm.
mean, birth control can be a factor in that. I
Hmm.
mean, it's such a bummer because women want to be safe with having safe sex, but also you're on hormones. It's just such a
Hmm.
double-edged sword with that because I totally
Hmm.
understand. But yeah, I think also learning about your hormones as well. There's so much out there that women just aren't aware of. There's so many educators out there that I think we just need to help make their voices louder so more women
Hmm.
can learn about their own hormones.
Yeah.
Because if it's a hormone receptive cancer, then it's metabolic, and then it's just all of that kind of encompassing in one lifestyle, diet, sleep, stress, exercise, and your all that affects your hormones.
Yeah, and we could have a whole
I know,
podcast on
right?
each one of those topics, right?
Exactly.
So you have learned a lot about the lymphatic drainage. Could you just speak,
Yeah.
let's say, a few more things about that? 'Cause in fact, I think of some of
Yeah.
those other areas that you just talked about are like hormones are starting to get more talk and people are starting to be more proactive, and insurance is even starting to support that a little bit more.
Hmm.
Like a lymphatic drainage massage seems like that's kind of far reach for your Western medicine to support that at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Just the release of the toxins that build up in your body, right, is a
Yeah.
huge part of this, and your glands. need to be cleansed too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think like exercise can help with draining the
Mm-hmm.
lymphatic
Mm-hmm.
system. And that's why that's so important. I am not an expert at the
Mm-hmm.
lymphatic system, but I
Mm-hmm.
have learned again from my thermogram
Yeah.
power women
Yeah.
a little bit about like, she used for an example that there was a patient that had a dental infection, but it was
Mm-hmm.
draining down.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
her inflammation levels were actually resting in her breast area, but they fixed the tooth and the inflammation went away.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I always let my patients know
Yeah.
who come in with TH3 plus or higher, that if we don't find a mass, then it could be related to more of like an inflammatory response to something else in your body. So,
Well, I love that you're looking at all those as options too.
yeah, I
Yeah.
want to help educate the
Yeah.
women that come to me too. I'm trying to learn to help them learn and guide them, right? I think it's
Yeah.
really important to women, people in general, they just want answers or they just want direction, really.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to know,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so I have this going on and I'm like, well, I know this person who's an expert and this person who's an expert. You can reach out to them and maybe
Mm-hmm.
that can help guide you
Yeah.
in the direction you need to go.
That's great.
Hmm.
So you're obviously very passionate about this.
Yes.
What are some of the reactions that you get from women who are just like, oh my gosh, I mean, I'm right now thinking, the idea of not having to go to do a traditional mammogram ever again is like, that sounds so awesome, and to be with somebody who could really educate me and support me in that would be
Hmm.
a gift. And I think, women in general, it's important that we're cared for too, and this is just a really like tender way that we could be cared for in a way that usually we're just kind of like, oh, it takes too much time, energy. I'm just going to like hope for the best. And
Yes.
unfortunately, I think that isn't, like you say, I don't think that's an abnormal kind of thought that women have around some. I mean, I know I do sometimes. And so I know I'm probably not alone,
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
just to be so supported in such a tender way, like, what do they say to you? Are they just so grateful?
Yeah, I get wonderful feedback, just at least the experience overall. And I mean, I don't know about all the other sites, but I really take care. I call all of my patients to let them know about the report, and I handhold probably more than
Mhm.
other sites because I want them to know there's a lot of jargon sometimes in there that sounds super scary, but it's not. And
Mhm.
so I just want to help educate those women on like, okay, so you have an apocrine cyst. They're huge, but they're benign. So we're okay.
Yeah.
But I just want you to be aware, or you have this area of microcalcification. It can be a risk factor to cancer. It's not currently being recommended for a biopsy by a radiologist. So I just want you to be aware so we can track that. So
Okay.
it's just the education of what their report says, what their breast health is. I just try and help them not freak out as much as
Yeah.
possible
Yeah.
because anytime there's something that you don't recognize, it can like automatically spiral into maybe I have cancer. And I
Yeah.
just want to try and like offload that stress because stress, hormones,
Yeah.
right? I'm not
Yeah.
trying to feel
Oh,
this.
no. No, right.
So yeah, I just try and I handhold probably more than maybe other people do just because
Mhm.
I want to make sure that my patients are
Mhm.
taken care of.
Sitting with you, I believe that. I believe
Yeah.
that's true. So you said that it reduces the amount of biopsies that you might need to do.
Mhm.
Are biopsies in and of themselves harmful in any way, or are they just more stressful for?
That's a tricky question just because there are risk factors of if something's cancerous and you poke it, does it spread? It's
Mm,
like, yes, there is. I don't know what the percentage is on that, on what the factor is of that happening. But it's also the only 100% way to know if
mhm,
something's malignant or
mhm,
benign. So I kind of help patients understand. I'm
mhm,
like, how much information do you want to know? This
mhm,
is looking suspicious. So if you want to take action, you got to get a needle biopsy.
mhm,
And I don't know if that'll change in the future, but
mhm,
as of right now, that's the only pathway to take action
mhm.
if it is malignant
Yeah,
or a lumpectomy. But
yeah. Well, and I would imagine additionally the stress of waiting for the
yeah,
results and going through the process and just the whole process itself, all of it would be quite stressful.
yeah,
So if you can reduce that when unnecessary, that seems very
exactly.
healthy.
Yeah.
I had to get a random biopsy when I had for a clogged milk duct.
Oh,
Yes, when I had just had I think my third, and I had hyperlactation production syndrome, which was a whole nother thing. But yeah, and it was really scary to go through that process actually.
yeah, yeah. You
So
had firsthand experience. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, and I think that would have this been available to me, that would have been really a beautiful thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and we can also assess if something looks kind of borderline and if it's recommended to then do a 6-month follow up. And then we can
Hmm.
assess if it's stable. Because, oh, that's another thing about the QT scan is it's very unique. It has an AI doubling time. So it can do an AI doubling time within usually 3 to 6 months, whatever's
What
recommended
does
by
that mean? AI doubling time.
so there is a scale of the sound waves. So basically, if it's in a higher 1500 range or above,
Hmm.
it tends to be more malignant. And if it's outside of that range, meaning that um, it's lower, then it tends to be more benign. And that's because masses are more solid and
Hmm.
cysts are more fluid. So the sound wave going through that, it's
Hmm.
going to be a lower sound wave
Got it.
because it's more benign
Yeah.
and it's fluid based.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love working with all these like frequencies and densities and
Yeah.
then yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how we're able to better
Hmm.
identify the more benign findings is we're like, this is obviously a cyst. I mean, I've had women come in who their breast is just filled with cysts, and they probably would have ended up being biopsied if they have just
Hmm.
gone only to a more traditional
Hmm.
methodology. But then we're able to track and then see,
Hmm.
hey, you know what? Actually, last time that you came, this one shrunk, or hey, this one's growing. It's still benign, but maybe you want to get a cyst
Hmm.
aspiration because
Hmm.
of comfort level or you want to get your hormones treated and kind of take
Hmm.
that into a factor as well.
So if they did one versus the other, so if that person with what did have quite a lot of cysts and
Mhm.
they did the QT or they did a biopsy, like would the results be the same or would they actually have more information by doing the QT?
Well, a biopsy is going to give you a pathology report, and the QT scan is going to give you an imaging
Yeah.
report.
So
So they're going
so
to be different.
which in a sense, I'm concluding, maybe I'm wrong, that
Mhm.
the QT would, if you had not, it wasn't something you needed to worry about, the QT would also give you just more information about your breasts so that you would be and the I guess the tendency and the consistency of your breasts, right? Versus
Yes.
so now you have that information where if you just biopsy it, you may, shoo, nothing was wrong, but at the same time you don't really know still how to make sense of a lump or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, I always tell people it's very similar imaging to an MRI, so without the
Uh-huh.
gadolinium, of course.
Uh-huh.
So, that's also what I tell people to help kind of place it in the breast imaging world
Mhm.
where it
Mhm.
belongs. Yeah, it's just like a no risk factor, but similar imaging to an MRI imaging tool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And are the results immediate or how do you
1 to 2 weeks currently.
Okay.
Hopefully that'll change in the future,
Yeah.
but yeah, 1 to 2 weeks.
Did you ship them out and get them back or what do you do with it?
So what happens is I send the scan over to the radiologist, and right now the radiologist that's reading for our site is also the chief medical officer for
Okay.
QT imaging, which I'm super proud of.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to do an interview with her probably later down the line, so that'll be
Fantastic.
fun. So I send it over to her. It goes into the queue. The imaging gets processed over to her, and then she reviews it, writes up the report. She's extremely detailed. I adore her. She's phenomenal, and then she sends it back to me. If there's an abnormal, she'll call me immediately, and she's like, call them right now. And
Mhm.
then yeah, and then we call them, and if there is an abnormal, then we also send it to their primary care physician, or if they have another provider that's managing their healthcare.
Mhm.
And then we just, we make sure that they're aware that there is something suspicious and that there's action needed. Or on the other end, everything looking clear, maybe you have some benign areas, and just
Mhm.
to be aware of it.
And then you would obviously, I would assume, if the patient wanted you to, you could stay involved with that ongoing process with them, with the doctor, if you did need to refer something to a doctor.
Yeah, normally everything related to the imaging, I'm happy
Mhm.
to send the images wherever they need me to, the report
Mhm.
wherever. If the doctor needs to talk to the radiologist, then that can be
Mhm.
set up. Yeah.
The QT scans, are you doing them still like once a year, every 2 years, every 5 years? What is the recommendation or does it differ at all?
Yeah, so I mean, currently, because of the FDA clearance, there isn't an official recommendation. I have women who do use it annually. I do have women who will use it every other, or they'll switch off between that and
Mhm.
mammography, or even that and thermography.
Okay.
So it's very individual, but I do have women who have opted out of mammography and do tend to only use this just because of
Mhm.
the experience and the comfort level for it as well, and of course the imaging quality.
Yeah, yeah, many reasons. And the
Yes.
radiation, right?
Yeah.
Too. Yeah,
And
I
the
mean, there's like
radiation.
a lot of reasons why this could be preferable.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So one, we spoke to hormones, and again, we could have a whole podcast about hormones. I would not be the expert on this, but I could definitely talk about it because I'm so interested in it. But I know with some of the comments, women, our bodies change so much, and sometimes we when we don't know, we make up stories. So, it's easy to go Google and figure out like, oh, something's happening to me and, go worst case scenario. But there's a range of just sensations. I've heard from some women that's a little bit more extreme than others. Like they maybe have their tenderness in their breasts will be, more significant during hormonal changes versus somebody else, or maybe that peaks at a certain stage in their life, right? Or something along that line. So do you have any tips of just how for a woman to just read those signs or to normalize that sensation flow in the sense of like, when is it normal? And I know that's a big question and you can't answer that exactly. I understand. But just some ideas about like, what are the signs of like, oh, this is concerning or I should pay attention to this versus like, oh, this is just normal flow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So, the biggest red flag to me is always nipple retraction.
Mm,
That's huge. We want to get that checked out right away.
yeah.
Any new lumps,
Okay.
get those checked out because we
Hmm.
want to make sure, especially if we've already done a baseline, we want to see what's
Hmm.
new. And then skin discoloration. Um, Pain isn't normally associated with breast cancer, but I would still recommend getting it checked
Hmm.
out because again, maybe it's a cyst that's growing, and maybe
Hmm.
that just will cause further discomfort down the line.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think new lumps, nipple retraction, discoloration, those are all the biggest ones that I would say you need to take some action just to
Yeah.
at least get it checked out.
Yeah. And those feel like all be symptoms that would get your attention, like
Yeah.
all of those. So,
Yes.
so just the like more tender, those kinds of things aren't as concerning initially.
Those are definitely hormonally fueled for
Okay.
sure, but I
Hmm.
do find that they're more associated with cysts. Still get them checked
Hmm.
out. I mean, why not? Get
Right.
that peace of mind.
Right.
Yeah.
And then self-testing. I know we should be doing this all the time, but what do you recommend?
I mean, start in your armpit area, do circles around your breast, feel behind your nipple too. That
Hmm.
can be a place as well, especially for DCIS.
Hmm.
And
What is
then
DCIS?
it is ductal carcinoma in situ. It's basically stage 0 breast cancer. It's
Okay.
contained in the duct and it hasn't become invasive.
Okay.
And we could get in a whole topic
Yeah.
about DCIS, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
DCIS is actually overtreated. And what that means is women are oftentimes they go through radiation, chemo, lumpectomy for DCIS. And in a lot of cases, DCIS never even becomes invasive. So
Hmm.
it can be very well managed through diet and lifestyle,
Okay.
or it just, if you want to do a lumpectomy because you just want to do that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of papers that have come out about DCIS being overtreated.
Okay.
Hmm. That's my personal opinion on it. If I had
Yeah.
DCIS, I would take that route personally.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, another personal opinion I would love to ask. What would be your ideal situation as far as like availability to this and like what is your image, your ironic image, but what is your like vision of how women could step into a better care? You speak very proactively about women deserve a right to have um,
Access.
access. Yeah. So what does that look like to you?
Yeah, I think having the scan in more sites across the country would be
Hmm.
phenomenal. I would love more women to be able to have the opportunity to do this. I mean, I don't even know if this is a totally political, but I mean, I've had a potential site reach out from the South,
Hmm.
and I guess there is a group of radiologists that they allegedly are falsifying mammography reports to have patients come back and get callbacks because they get.
I really pray that's not true.
Yeah, I know. So allegedly,
Yeah.
but yeah, so then they could
Mm.
make more money on the callbacks.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was been told to me, so
Okay.
allegedly,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, that's just I having accessibility to an imaging tool so more women could have just more of their health in their own hands and they can make
Yeah.
the decisions to, hey, I do want to get this done because right now, I mean, you can't find a lot of places that will do out of pockets. Sometimes you can, but it's getting fewer and fewer.
Yeah.
And it's tough if you have a concern or it's taking months to get into anywhere.
Mhm.
So I guess my vision is just to educate women on their breast density so they're aware of the imaging tools that they need, and then on top of that, just that access to be able to go and get something done to help ease their mind
And the education around it.
and the education around it. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you specifically doing just about that piece? Like, do you have classes yet, or do you have just like flyers or
Social media.
Social media. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some things on your website and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's other QT sites that are working
Yeah.
hard on educating as well
Yeah.
through their means. So
Yeah.
it's lucky that the people who are involved in this are also passionate about educating. So
Hmm.
I'm feeling grateful that I'm not a solo woman
Right.
on an
Right.
island.
You had help, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you were graciously are going to make yourself available to speak to my membership, which is a
Yes.
group of 50 women that are going to be dying to hear all of this.
I'm excited.
Too. So yeah, ladies, if you're listening right now, get your questions ready. So that's awesome. Oh gosh, I've learned so much. I'm kind of got that a fire hose. I just learned so much in such a short time.
I feel like I spewed a lot at you too. I was just kind of go.
Yeah, well, I was coming right back with a question, so it was a good team. So one of the questions we ask here is, how do you live with your heart wide open? I mean, I already know some of the answers by just being with you, and you certainly do. But how do you live with your heart wide open? I guess professionally and personally.
Yeah, professionally, obviously, I care a lot about patients. I think I'm such a girl's girl in the way that, if you come to me, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you have the answers that you are looking for. And I want to give. I want to give to you. And then I guess in my personal life, I just want to be available. I'm a mom, so I learned so much from her as a kid.
Yeah.
Just also learning to slow down. That's important that I've
Yeah.
learned from being a mom.
Yeah. It's hard to be available if you're going too fast all the time.
Yeah, it
And
is.
this culture makes that a little bit hard to slow down sometimes. Yeah. Give me a couple things. What do you do in your spare time?
I love paddleboarding.
Oh.
Yeah, I take my daughter paddleboarding. I was that weird person who had a toddler on a paddleboard in the middle, and people are like, "Good for you," or some people were judging, and I was like, "Oh no, she's
Either way, we're out here." Yeah.
She loved it, and then and then I have 2 dogs and a husband, so they all keep me busy.
What kind of dogs?
2 boxers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, I am so happy to have you in my world, and thank you for all of your time and your light that you brought today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here. It was a lot of fun and wonderful to meet you.
Yes, perfect. Well, we will put all of your information in all of the places and welcome any questions to the comments there. And we will likely circle back and see what happens in chapter 2 of this, because I know you're not done.
No, let's keep it going.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast. We appreciate your time, energy, and attention. Whether you're watching or listening, please remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Stay up to date with us at heartwideopenwellness.com so you don't miss any upcoming events, offerings, or retreats. Until next time, keep your heart wide open.